Infantry Division, 24th Infantry Division, and the 101st Airborne Division. His final assignment was serving as a facility member for U.S. Command and General Staff College at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas. He oversees service including Hawaii, Korea, New Zealand, and Kuwait. His awards include the Expert Infantry Badge, Parachutist Badge, and 6 awards with Meritorious Service Medal. Ely is a graduate of the Infantry Officer Basic and Advanced Courses and Inspector General course, the Combined Arms and Services School, Staff School, and the Command of General Staff Officers course. He earned his education in occupational training and development at the University of Louisville. At this time, I'd like to call on Mr. Ely LaFonte.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Special guests, Judge Ming Lim, my pastor, Father Timothy Gallagher, and of course, I've always wanted to do this from the podium to greet and to recognize my girlfriend, my wife of over 30 years, and the mother of my 3 children, Lana Elefante from Buchanan, Georgia. And that was a wave, if you didn't see it. I'd like to digress just for a few moments here. I started the day writing this speech and these remarks, and I had a chance, my wife and I, to go to Mass at St. Bernadette's Catholic Church with Father Gallagher, who presided over that Mass. And I told my wife, we'll probably see a handful of folks there, on the Monday morning. Most folks are, hitting the malls or getting ready for barbecue, etc. But it was nice to see probably 20, 25 or so parishioners there to celebrate today, Memorial Day. And they weren't all originally from Polk County or Haralson County or Fulton County. But what was very moving was the fact that the parishioners who were there, there was B, who grew up in the Republic of South Vietnam, and there was Freddie, who grew up in Cuba, and there was the Rodriguez family, who grew up in Mexico, and there was Les Ritter of the Jewish faith, who served our nation. The ability to worship on Memorial Day with the various parishioners was very moving. So thank you for allowing me to digress. Thank you for allowing me also to speak on this beautiful day in Cedartown, Georgia. I am very humbled for this opportunity. I'm grateful for the efforts of the American Legion and my friend Leonard Draper to make certain that we honor all veterans and all fallen on days like today. This is a beautiful park here in Cedartown. And especially to honor all the great Americans who have sacrificed their lives so we can enjoy the freedoms of being an American. Since Memorial Day 1992, I've always remembered my boss, officer in charge and friend, Major Thomas C.M. Tom Zeugner, Ordnance Corps, Explosive Ordnance Disposal, United States Army. Yes, for you old soldiers, sailors, Marines, airmen, and Coast Guardsmen, Major Zeugner was an EOD, Explosive Ordnance Disposal. Tom had a great sense of humor. A lot of folks had no idea what EOD meant, so he'd say, I was with the bomb squad. And that's what they did, for all you guys who could remember that. That recent Hollywood movie, The Hurt Locker, depicted what EOD does in a combat situation. Those folks, those great, brave men and women, not only in the military, but also in law enforcement and the fire department, their job is to clear unexplosive ordnance, known by the military as DUDs, and the improvised explosive devices, IEDs, or the booby traps that are left by the enemy. Like all other EOD professionals, Tom had ice water in his veins. He was among the bravest of the brave, totally fearless, but also modest. From September 1987 through May of 1990, Tom was my boss, serving as the officer in charge, department chair of the Military Science Department of California State University San Bernardino. At the time, I was a young captain. I didn't have gray hair. I had more hair. I had a 30-inch waistline. And I served as an assistant professor of military science. Tom loved the Army, and the cadets who later on served our nation as officers actually served with him in Operation Desert Storm, Desert Shield, and in later operations. Some of them are still serving right now as I speak. Tom was a great leader. He cared for all of us. He was a great salesman. I think you probably met some of those salesmen in your lives. He boosted the enrollment in ROTC in Southern California. Yes, Southern California, a very liberal place. He's one of those guys who could sell ice cubes to Eskimos. That's how great he was in terms of selling the program that he loved. Few college students could resist his genuine patriotism and his service to his nation, and they enrolled in the ROTC program and they became officers in this great Army. He taught survival skills. It was an accredited undergraduate course, and he was known campus-wide for many of his witticisms, his references to the incredible edible plant. He loved life. He never took himself too seriously. He kept us laughing with his references to the intersection of Interstates 10 and 15, Southern California's version of Spaghetti Junction, and of course he would name it Malfunction Junction. He would always cook a Bambi venison stew, and he always made the commercial that he shot it, he dressed it, and this stew had no preservatives or hormones. And he would always make fun of those little old ladies in Southern California who'd wear white gloves and be pushing it at 55 miles an hour to drive on the interstates in Southern California. And if anyone, you've been out there in Southern California, it's like driving in Atlanta. It's not for the meek and timid. He was a role model for me, and he taught me how to successfully work on a liberal Southern California university, complete with both the extreme left-wing and right-wing professors. I still apply what he taught me in my tours of duty at West Georgia Technical College and in my current position at the University of West Georgia. On a serious note, Major Thomas C.M. Zeugner made the ultimate sacrifice to this nation on February 27, 1991, during literally the last hours of Operation Desert Storm. Major Zeugner was killed by Iraqi small arms fire while inspecting his units and trying to deactivate Iraqi landmines as the commanding officer of the 543rd Explosive Ordnance Disposal Control Team of the 18th Airborne Corps. Tom always led from the front. And to quote the great naval hero Captain John Paul Jones, Tom never hesitated to go in harm's way. When I heard of his death, I was stationed at Fort Lewis, Washington. I knew it was fitting that Tom was in direct action and died to save U.S. and Iraqi civilian lives from the landmines. To quote our Savior from John 15, verse 13, "Greater love hath no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends." Tom was awarded the Bronze Star and the Purple Heart. It is important to remember not how and why Tom paid the last full measure on that dusty main supply route, Texas, at the Iraqi village of As Samarwa, but rather it is important to remember how he lived. A leader who selflessly served those he was entrusted to lead. A son, a brother, a husband, a friend, a soldier who embodied all the greatness of this country. As the son of a late Marine Colonel, John Zeugner, his father, I'm sure Tom attended many of these Memorial Day ceremonies, whether it was at Quantico or Camp Lejeune or Camp Pendleton or all those other places where the Marines do their thing. Or later on as a cadet at the Virginia Military Institute, and then finally later as a commissioned officer in the United States Army. I'm sure his thoughts at those ceremonies are probably the same ones you and I are experiencing right now. How do we provide a tribute and gratitude to the countless soldiers, sailors, Marines, airmen, and Coast Guardmen who served our nation from Lexington Green and Concord Bridge to this very day in dusty outposts in Afghanistan, Iraq, or the demilitarized zone, the DMZ in South Korea, where Tom also served. In the spring of 1998, Tom invited Colonel Louis E. Millett, U.S. Army, the 27th Infantry Regiment, the Wolfhounds, who was awarded the Medal of Honor in the Korean War, for leading the last bayonet charge since the Civil War. Colonel Millett provided a lecture at California State University San Bernardino. He ended his presentation by reciting from memory Charles Province's U.S. Army, his poem, "It is a Soldier." I'm sure many of you have heard or read this, so please bear with me. I'd like to read this poem. It is a soldier, not the minister, who has given us freedom of religion. It is a soldier, not the reporter, who has given us freedom of the press. It is a soldier, not the poet, who has given us freedom of speech. It is a soldier, not the campus organizer, who has given us freedom to protest. It is a soldier, not the lawyer, who has given us the right to a fair trial. It is a soldier, not the politician, who has given us the right to vote. It is a soldier who salutes the flag, who serves beneath the flag, and whose coffin is draped by the flag, who allows a protester to burn the flag. James Jones, author of From Here to Eternity, that great book, that great movie, included these lyrics to that timeless tribute played every evening at forts, camps, stations, bases all over the world, and at every military graveside funeral. Taps. And throughout the world, taps will be played at those places I just mentioned. And to quote James Jones, "Day is done, gone the sun, from the lakes, from the hills, from the sky. Rest in peace, soldier brave, God is nigh." When I was a young officer in the infantry, one of the greatest compliments anyone could receive was to be referred to, "I soldiered, I served with XXX." I will always be proud to say that I served with Major Tom Zeugner. Tom, my boss, my friend, my role model, I will always remember you and never forget your personal sacrifice for our nation. Rest in peace, soldier brave. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your attention, and may God bless America.